Alright guys, MTech Guy here, and today we're going to take a look at replacing the spark plugs on the BMW E60 M5. Now then, how often should you look at replacing your spark plugs? Well, the official intervals are approximately 35,000 miles, 60,000 Ks if I'm right off the top of my head there, but it does actually get monitored in your iDrive here, so we'll take a look at this. If we click in information here, there is a counter, info sources, service, and then right down the bottom there we've got the spark plugs. That's the one that's up on the screen at the moment. Now this is telling me I've got 46,000 Ks left to go, but I've never done the spark plugs in this car since I've had it. I've had the car for almost 2 years now, so I'm going to get them done today. I don't know when the counter was reset, I don't know what brand has been used in it, and I don't know the condition of the plugs, so just for my own peace of mind I'm going to get them changed out today, and then that'll give me an opportunity to also have a look at the condition of the ones that are in the car, and it'll just give me a good gauge on whether the recommended service interval is correct or whether they should be changed out sooner. So what we'll do next is we'll take a look at what spark plugs to use in the S85 V10. Okay, so when it comes to selecting the correct spark plugs for your E60 M5, your S85 V10, of course we've got 10 of them to think about here. Now there's two brands that you can consider, either genuine BMW ones or NGKs. And the NGK part number's right there, LKR 8AP. Now, they are essentially the same spark plugs. NKG manufacture them for BMW, so you go and buy the genuine ones, you're going to pay a lot more for them, and the only difference being is they're going to have BMW printed on them, but you will get a 2-year warranty with the genuine ones, so that's the only difference. But I've chosen to go with the NGKs because they're a lot cheaper and they do have a pretty long service life. Anyhow, we'll open the bonnet and we'll take a look where these things live in the engine. Okay, so the spark plugs live inside the cylinder heads, and we've got 5 on each side, 5 down there, 5 down the other side. Now, they're screwed into the top of the cylinder head like most modern engines, and they sit inside a fairly deep well, and then once they're screwed into the head, you have the ignition coil that just pops on top of them, and then you've got the wiring harness to the ignition coil that just plugs in at the top there. We'll take a look at that in a moment. And the ignition coils that are connected to the spark plugs, they're hidden under this plastic cover here. I don't know if you can see it there with the light, but that's just like a plastic shroud to keep any moisture, any damp off the ignition coils themselves. Now, as you can see, it doesn't look like there's a great deal of access to both sides there. So the first thing we need to think about is how we're going to give ourselves a bit more room. So what we'll do to start off with, we'll remove the 2 air boxes, just the top sides. On this side especially, we're going to have to remove the expansion tank there, so we can unbolt that and just fold it out the way without having to drain it or anything like that. And then this side we should have plenty of room. We may consider removing the reservoir there for the power steering, but I think we should be okay. But the other one to consider is, I want to think about removing the cowling here, the plenum, where your fresh air filters are, your cabin air filters are housed there. Now that's just to be able to reach the spark plugs right at the back, cylinders 5 and 10. Now you'll often hear of many E60 M5 owners describing them 2 back ones as very difficult to get at, and you know, fair enough, it's a little bit tricky, but it's not as bad as it sounds. It's not as bad as it's made out. Like if you've ever done the spark plugs on a Subaru engine, on an EJ25, you know, the old boxer engines, you've got like this much room between the cylinder head and the chassis rails down each side. They're an absolute nightmare. So the spark plugs on these engines are a walk in the park compared to them, but them back 2 are a little bit tricky. So to make our lives a bit easier, we will just remove this plenum here. Now it does seem like a lot of gear to remove to start off with before we even get into the job, but BMW are very good at designing these engine bays in such a way that all this stuff that's in the way comes away fairly easy. So it's just a case of a few screws, a few clips. Doesn't take that very long, not a big deal. Okay, what I'll do is I'll stick the camera on my head and we'll make a start, and then we'll just go through step by step what's required to replace the spark plugs. Okay, so we'll start off with the airbox here, removing the upper side of this. So first off we'll remove the MAF connector, and then we've got this air pipe here. Just push the connector in top and bottom, that just pops out, and we'll grab our screwdriver. Now we've got 5 clips around the perimeter of the box here. We're just going to put our screwdriver in, turn it 90 degrees, and they'll pop open. So them 5, and then we're going to remove this hose clamp here, the one closest to the plenum. And we're just going to grab hold of the top side, lift it up, and then pull it away from the plenum. There we go. And similar job on the other side, so we'll start off with the MAF connector again. And we've got these 2 coolant hoses here, Hull coolant lines, so we'll just pop them out the way. And then again we've got the 5 metal clips around the perimeter, so we'll just pop them loose. And again the hose clamp on your induction hose here, the one closest to the plenum. And we've also got the screen wash filler neck here, so it's just a little clasp there. Push that away and then pull the whole lot right up and just off the airbox lid like that. And again we're just going to grab hold of that and lift it up and out, and then pull the hose away from the plenum. There we go. And I think what we'll do is we'll make a start on the right hand side first, so we'll just leave that reservoir in position for now and we'll move back over to this side. Okay, so now that we've got them removed, we'll next move on to the cabin air filter and the covers there. So we'll start over on the right hand side, and there's just a metal retainer here to pop off first. And then next up we've got a little 13mm plastic nut. So it's plastic, so go careful with it, and you just want to turn that 90 degrees to release it. And we're just going to lift that up, disconnect the electrical connectors here. There's 2 of them on this side, and then up and out like that. And exactly the same on the left hand side of the car there. So we'll start off with the metal retainer, pop that off, and then we've got our 13mm plastic nut. No connectors on this side, no electrical connectors, so it's just straight up and out with that one. Then we'll lift the weather strip up and out. And then we've got the plastic retainer here that holds the 2 sides together. So to remove that, there's just a little clasp here, just lift that up, slide it across to the left hand side of the car, and that comes straight out. Now it's time to remove the 2 halves. So these are held in by the 13mm plastic nuts again, and then there's also some T30 screws, just 1 on each side, that we'll take a look at shortly. So we'll start off with this middle plastic nut, again just turn it 90 degrees, and then over to the left hand side of the car. There's 3 of them, 1 there, 1 there, 1 there, and we'll move over to the right hand side. Same again, just opposite, another 3 plastic nuts here, turn them 90 degrees. Again, just go gentle with them because they are plastic, you don't want to break anything. Side, just down here, I don't know if you can make it out there, but we've got a T30 torque screw, so we'll just remove that now. And then we've got the same again on the right hand side of the car, just down there, but as you can see mine's missing, so I'm going to have to see about getting another one, so we don't need to worry about that one today. So next up we can lift these 2 halves out, starting off with the left hand side of the car because it overlaps this way. Okay, so now that we've got the plenum removed, I think what we'll do is we'll remove the bottom halves of the airboxes there, and then that'll just give us a bit of extra room to work with. So on the left hand side of the car we've just got a T30 bolt here and a 10mm nut there. So what we're going to do is just grab hold of this and lift it straight up and manoeuvre it out of the car. It is held on at the front here with the ducting, and that just literally slides straight up off there. Just like that. And the one on the right hand side of the car, just 2 10mm nuts, 1 there, 1 down the bottom there. And then again, we're just going to grab hold of this straight up and out like the other side. Just like that. Okay, so now that we've got that lot removed, you can see that we've got much better access to our spark plugs there. You can see the plastic coil covers there, and over here on the left hand side of the car. And like I say, it was just a few clips, screws and nuts, not a huge deal, just to get that lot out of the way. It wasn't too time consuming, and it's all designed just to come out in pieces like that quite easily, so that gives us much better access to what we want to get at today. Now this side, the left hand side of the car, is probably the difficult of the two sides, so what I might do is I might leave that for now. I'll leave the expansion tank in place for now, and we'll make a start on the right hand side of the car because it's just a bit more open here and you'll be able to see what I'm doing a bit better, get a better idea of what's involved with removing the spark plugs. And then once we've got this side done, we'll move over to this side. And as you can see on the two plenum intakes here, I've just chucked a nitrile glove over there. That's just going to stop any dirt and debris finding its way into there. That's the last thing you want with your V10, so that'll keep any dirt out there for us. Okay, so to start off with, we first need to remove this plastic coil cover here. Now there's no bolts or anything holding this, it's just held in by two little rubber retaining plugs on the inside of it. So it's literally just a case of get hold of it at the front and then pop it loose on them two retainers and then just feed it out the way. Pretty straightforward. Just like that, and you can see the two retainers there, they just pop off these little plugs there, one there, one there. So now we've got a good view of what we came for. You got the 5 coils here and that one hidden down the back there. So what I might do is I might start off with this one at the front. It's nice and clear, and then that'll just give you a good idea of what we're dealing with there. So to start off with, we'll just try and shuffle these hoses out of the way here. These coils have got a clamp at the top, so they just need to be popped up 90 degrees, and what that'll do is at the same time is it'll push the electrical connector of the harness out. So we'll start off with that now. Just like that, look. Now with these coils, there's nothing holding them, there's no bolts or anything holding them in like on the earlier BMW engines. It's just pressed in with the rubber neck just sort of holding it in there, and then obviously it's just popped on the top of the spark plug there. Now what can happen over time is this rubber can become dry and aged and hard. It's sitting inside the well there, and they can sort of get really stuck in there. So usually it's not as easy as just getting hold of it and pulling it out, but a little trick that you can use, you can put an extension bar through this hole here of the clasp that holds it there. So when it's in its upright position, you put an extension through there, and then that gives you a good positive hold in it, and then just pull it straight up and out. And what you can do to make it a little bit easier for yourself is just to break that seal inside of it there. What you can do is just grab hold of it and just turn it slightly anti-clockwise. We'll pull it back again, and then that'll just break that seal, and it'll make it a little bit easier to pop out the hole there. So I've just got a 3/8 extension bar here. So what we'll do is we'll feed that through the hole there, and while it's in the upright position, we'll just grab hold of it and pull it straight out, just like that. And that's what the coils look like, and you can see that's the rubber section there that keeps it pressed in the hole there, and then of course you've got this grasping onto the top of the spark plug there. So that's out of the way. So what we'll do is we'll do one at a time, rather than take the whole lot out and then all the spark plugs out and then do all the spark plugs. We want to minimize the time that these holes are open to the atmosphere and potential dust and dirt getting in there. So what we'll do, coil out, spark plug out, new one in, coil back in, and then move on to the next one. Okay, so now we've got clear access to our spark plug. You can probably see it just sitting down the bottom of the spark plug well there. So what we'll be using today is a 10mm spark plug socket. Now this is a dedicated spark plug socket. It's got a little rubber retainer in there. You can often get them with a magnet as well, and the idea with that is that once you've undone it, it'll just sort of stick inside the socket there, so you can lift it right out. And then same when you're reinstalling the new one, you don't want to be letting it drop down inside of it, especially the new one, because it can damage the end of the spark plug. And as well as the dedicated spark plug socket, I'm also using an extension bar with a locking end on it, so that's got that socket locked on the end there. So what that means is once we've screwed the spark plug in position and then we lift this back out, this isn't going to end up stuck to the spark plug and then this popping off the socket. The whole lot's going to come out together, and that's what we want. So just something to think about before you get into the job. Okay, so we're ready to remove this spark plug now. So what we'll do is we'll put our socket down in the hole there, make sure it's on the spark plug, and we'll just clamp our ratchet on there. There we go, there it is there. Now they do have a quite reasonable length of thread on them, these ones, so you really want to be careful when you're reinserting the new one that you don't want to get it cross-threaded. So just that first sort of half a turn, if you do feel it binding up, just back off again and make sure you got it seated correctly before you can sort of finger tight it wound through on them first 2 or 3 threads, because the last thing you want to do is strip out the threads in the cylinder head. We'll just compare that to our new one. You can see this one's looking a bit grey and dirty on the end of it, so certainly a good time to get it changed out for some fresh ones there. Now when you do come to screw the new one in, you just want to be thinking about this sealant washer here. Now it's almost like a small crush washer. You can see that one's flat on the old one. So basically all you're doing when you tighten it up, you don't want to go insane torque to tighten it up, but also you don't want it too loose that it's going to cause issues as well. So you basically just want to be thinking about compressing this small fine retainer there, the wee metal seal, and you can see that, so you just got to feel it as you go in there. Now what I'll do is I'll leave the torque spec on the bottom of the screen there. So we'll stick our brand new one in the socket there, and like I say, just feel it in there. You'll feel straight away whether you've bound up on the thread or not, whether you've got it cross-threaded or not, but it should just screw in there nicely by hand, and you'll get a few turns out of it by hand. We'll click our ratchet on there and tighten her up. There we go. And we're ready to stick our coil back in. Now just take note of this rubber triangle here. There is a small recess in the valve cover there, just them small 2 aluminium tabs, so it just needs to sit in there and that'll pop in nicely. You'll just hear it pop. And we'll put the connector back on there, and as you push it in, you'll see it'll pick up this clasp here, and then push it right down, and that's clicked shut. Okay, so what I'll do now is I'll work from front to back. So we've got our first one, number 1 cylinder, changed out there. I'll work my way through these 3, and then when we get to that back one, we'll just go through that one in detail, because as you can see, it is a little bit tricky to get at that one, but we'll get it sorted. As I say, that one at the back, a lot of owners do experience difficulty with it, but the main thing is just to get that plenum out of the way. That gives you heaps more room, and like I say, it's a walk in the park compared to some other cars, especially the Subarus. It is quite funny with the old Subarus. They are very popular over here in New Zealand. They call it a Subaru over here, that's the way they pronounce it, which I was unaware of when I first moved here. So I was referring to them as Subarus, but everybody thought I was saying Subaru. Now that refers to a old Australian muscle car, a Ford Falcon GTHO from the 60s, Subaru, and it's got the little cartoon of the kangaroo on the side of it, with the engine and the smoking tyres, you know. So although I was saying Subaru, they thought I was saying Subaru. So that made for some interesting conversations, to say the least. So as far as I'm aware, New Zealand's the only country that pronounces it Subaru. Say Subaru Impreza, whereas in England we used to say Subaru Impreza. So as far as I'm aware, the only country that pronounce it like that, Subaru. But let me know in the comments below how you guys around the world pronounce it. I don't know why we're going on about Subarus on a BMW channel anyway, but there you go. 2 down, 8 more to go. Let's speed up the footage a bit, eh? Okay, so there we are, that's them 4 done. So now we've found ourselves coming to replace this one at the back, number 5 cylinder, right at the back there. So again, it's just a case of filling your way through there, and we're going to pop that retainer up, wiring harness connector out. Now, we'll give that a small turn, just to break the seal. Now you might find with the extension bar that you can't get hold of it, especially over the other side. Now if you can't, what you can do is just put the nice rounded end on the back side of it, and then what you can do is just lever against the top of the valve cover. It is pretty sturdy, it's aluminium. Obviously don't go mad, but you're just going to sort of push it through the coil there and then just lever it up like that. But as it happens, I can get my hand in there and do that one, just like the others. And then just as we slide the coil out here, there isn't a great deal of room, it's pretty tight. There we go. Okay, so to remove this spark plug, I can't get a straight shot at it with our normal 3/8 lock-in extension and the 3/8 10mm spark plug socket. So what we're going to use, got a bit of rig set up here. Now I've gone up to 1/2 inch here just because it's the only short locking socket I've got, so you don't necessarily have to use 1/2 inch, better off with 3/8 for this job. But anyway, what I've got here, I've got the same 10mm spark plug socket, locking extension. I've got just a reducer here to reduce it down, but the next step is you want a universal joint here, and then we've got a long extension right up, so that'll just give us the angle we need to sneak in there, take it out and reinstall the new one. Also, to give us a bit of extra room, just remove this plug here, you can pop that hose up out the way. Yours might look different to this, especially if it's a left-hand drive. You won't have your brake booster on this side, but you should be able to create a bit of extra space there. So it is tight, but doable. Feeder in there. Put the ratchet on. Now we have it, the old spark plug, and we're ready for the new one. So insert that on the spark plug socket, and then we'll just gently feed it in again, not to damage the threads. And just make sure you go careful starting them threads, because essentially you are on a bit of a funny angle there, so just grab the straight piece down the bottom and just make sure it's threading in there nicely, not cross-threaded. Okay, I've got that spark plug all torqued up there. Unfortunately, I didn't capture that bit on camera, but anyhow, ready to reinsert our coil. We'll stick that in there now. Seat it in position. There we go. And we'll reconnect our coil wiring harness there. Clip shut. Just put these pipes back, and a wee rubber plug there. Right, so that's them 5 all changed out. So now we're ready to refit the plastic cover, and then what we'll do, we'll move over to the other side, and then once we've got it all finished, we'll put everything back to normal. Okay, so around this side, first up, we need to get this expansion tank out of our way. So we've already got this 10mm nut removed here when we removed the lower airbox. So there's just 2 10mm bolts, one there and one there. We'll get them out and then we'll get it out of the way. Okay, so now we've got the expansion tank out of the way, we're ready to remove our coil cover here. Now it's a little bit different on this side because you've got this cable here retained in a clip there. Also you've got this in the way, so just pop them out of the way. It's a little bit more tricky to get out, but it's doable. Okay, so here we are, we've got our 5 coils exposed now, so I think what I'll do is I'll start with the ugly one at the back again. We'll get that done, and then the other 4 are just pretty straightforward, just like the easy ones on the other side. I'm sure you got the gist of it now. So for this one, to gain a little bit of extra access, we've got this clip here. We'll just pop that hose out the way there, and then I've got my DME box over this side, with mine being a right-hand drive. So what we'll do is just pop these cables and this plug up out the way. That should give us just a little bit of extra access. Pop that coil out. We'll grab our 3/8 extension here just to pull that coil out again. See if I can get it out without levering against the valve cover. See how we go. There we go. That's that one out. Okay, I've got my 3/8 extension, the locking one with the 14mm spark plug socket on the end of it. So that was our original setup. I was actually able to get that in this side okay. So we'll get our ratchet on there and we'll get her undone. And there we go, there's the old one. And now we've got our shiny new one ready to put in there. Okay, we've got that new one hand tight in there now. We'll just give it a tighten up with the ratchet here. That's the tricky one done. So, the other 4 left, it should be plain sailing from here. That's what we'll do now. Just plug this lot back in. Our coil back in position. Done. So what I'll do is I'll just work through the rest of these without filming. I'm not going to bore you guys to death, and then once I've got that done we'll move on to the next stage. Okay, so that's the last of the spark plugs changed out now, and as you can see I've got my coil cover back in position there, got my expansion tank lifted back up and in position. So that's pretty much it for the spark plug. So what I'll do now is I'll just go around and refit everything. Obviously it's just reverse of removal, and yeah, I'll see you in 5 minutes. Okay, so there we go, everything's back together now, back to normal. So what we'll do now is we'll jump inside the car and take a look at resetting the counter. Okay, so back inside the car now, we've got the ignition key in position 2, and what we'll do is we'll just hit the button on the left hand side here. We're just going to press and hold it, and you'll see it come up there with the warning sign. And what we'll do is we'll just let go of the button and then just press through. So we're just scrolling through now till we see that spark plug, and then what we'll do now is press and hold the button again. It says reset, let go, press again, and there we go, it's reset to 60,000 kilometers. Easy as that. Alright guys, so there we have it. That's the spark plug replacement sorted. So like I say, most of them are pretty easy once you get everything out of the way. Just you might have a little bit of trouble with them back two there. They're not too bad. They're not as bad as people make out, but I'll be interested to hear how you guys get on with them anyway. Especially, I think it kind of affects it whether it's a left-hand drive or right-hand drive car, with the brake booster or the DME box being opposite sides. So I found that although this side's more difficult to get out with the amount of equipment that's in the way, the one on the back here was probably the most awkward out of the two for me. But it'd be interesting to see you guys with left-hand drive cars, how you get on. So if you found the video interesting or useful, don't forget to like and subscribe. I'm MTech Guy. Thanks a lot for watching.